Joburg Water is taking extensive measures to tackle the current water supply challenge. We spoke to the CEO of Joburg Water to find out more.
That are produced since the 23rd of September, we had an issue, and that issue in the main was triggered by power failure that's happened at our bulk supplier, where there were 5 power failures that happened. And those power failures, because they were happening on an average of 2 power failures per week over the last 2 weeks, really ended up affecting the commando system. We're still in the process of stabilizing that system. And of course, the issue of the heat waves that we experienced during the same period that we had this power failure didn't help in us really able to bring back the system quicker, simply because of, during the same period we've seen the demand also increasing, which then affected the ability of our bulk water supplier to improve their levels of the reservoir, because for us to be able to supply water to our customer residents, we need the bulk water supplier to give us water, and they can only do that when their reservoirs are at a certain level. Because what happens is that the area that are affected, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's no water at all in those areas. There is water, however, that water is only the people that are on the low-lying area that gets that water, because the reservoir is very low or empty. So as the water comes through the reservoir, it runs to the low-lying area. The people that end up getting affected, those that are on the high-lying area, that need a reservoir to be at a certain level. So that's why engaging with community for them to use water sparingly is very important.
We are busy with construction of an alternative in terms of Mondio.
The big problem is that the infrastructure is old. At the end of the day, that becomes the main contributor. But with that being said, our plan is to obviously ramp up our maintenance. The first one being there's obviously time-based maintenance, where the original equipment manufacturer would say to you, this type of equipment you have to maintain once a year or once every 5 years and so on. So we ensure that we're strict in terms of that, and we stick to that. But you'll appreciate that only applies if your infrastructure is within its useful life. Now, when you have a substation such as Orlando, which is over 60 years, it then becomes problematic. We also do what we call condition-based maintenance. So we've got a team of our technicians, and they're in the fields every single day, and they're looking at the condition of our infrastructure. And then they raise the red flags. And what we do with those is we've got a ranking. It's a risk-based assessment, level 1 up to level 7. So if something is at level 1, you can afford to say, okay, I'm going to come back to it in 6 months or so. But if something is at level 7, it therefore means it has to be done like yesterday. So our technicians raise that. It then gets converted into a maintenance plan. And then we've got then the other team that then responds to that and ensures that we do not find ourselves with anything in that region. So the biggest lesson learned is exactly that. It has actually forced us to restructure ourselves. We had to go back to our operating model and say that we are currently structured to fight fires. We're not structured to do proper maintenance. So we now have a structure that responds to maintenance. We've got a general manager who's dedicated to substation maintenance with a full team, and that's all they do every single day.
We've set up a war room that will help us to address these issues, because they're affecting not only Johannesburg, they're affecting the entire province of Gauteng. So we want to ensure that there's a coordination between national, local government and rainwater in addressing this problem, so that we don't have this problem. But we're also praying for the rain, because once we all pray for the rain and it rains, it means you don't have to water your garden using municipal water. That is why we're introducing these restrictions, that let's not use the water to water the garden for this period until the levels have increased. So let's continue to pray for the rain to come, because it will ease the pressure on water supply in Gauteng. So this is our problem, all of us together. It's not an irresponsible act that Joburg Water did not pay rent water. It could have been a different discussion then. But we think we will push, and very soon we'll be at the level where we can provide uninterrupted water to residents.